Hi. So,
hello, friend.
I have something to say. Whoever's listening, I do.
Yeah. Good.
They're now listening and hearing two, not one, but two ordained ministers speaking to them.
That is hilarious.
I feel like we've leveled up our podcast game now that we're both ordained.
Can we talk about the fact that I got accidentally ordained?
Let's talk about that. How the process must be to be accidentally ordained. Yes.
So, well, first of all, Emily is marrying Ben and I. She's going to be the officiant, which I am so excited about. And that is happening. This will actually be released 4 days before my wedding.
Oh, yes. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
So you're going to be marrying Ben and I. And I just kind of love the way that all sounds because you're also going to be kind of marrying. Oh my gosh. I also love when I posted the engagement photo. It was one of you, me, and Ben. And people were like, huh? And I was like, yeah, I just need her.
It's kind of like a package deal.
Ben, you're marrying me, but Emily is a part of this.
Right.
Anyway, so you have to get ordained. And so I was trying to make sure. I remember it from my event planning days and helping other people go through that process. I remember it not being very hard.
Right.
And so I was going through and clicking through, getting ordained at the Universal Life Church. And then at the end, it was like, congratulations, you are now ordained and you are able to perform weddings. And I was like, oops.
That's amazing.
So
it is very easy.
Yes, it is very easy.
Yeah.
And then so you got ordained. I didn't know that. Congratulations.
I did. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got ordained at getordained.org.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Because I liked that domain name. Very straight to the point. It's also Universal Life Church, though. So I guess they just have their different...
Oh, SEO. This is marketing. This is marketing. They probably just bought... Yes. Speaking of, let's go right into my biggest pet peeve of all time. Yeah, it's actually a really smart SEO move to just buy URLs that are related to all Google searches. I was so impressed recently, actually, because I had a little party at my house and I looked up event rentals Santa Monica because I just needed 5 chairs. I didn't need a lot. And Santa Monica eventrentals.com came to the top, obviously, because it's exactly what I'm searching for. And then I called them and they sent me a quote and I realized that they were actually in the Valley, which was 45 minutes away. And they just bought the URL and set up a website that is almost exactly the same as their website to capture people from Santa Monica. And I was like,
sneaky.
So smart, because I would have never picked something that far away on a map. So anyway, that was funny. But that's marketing for you.
Marketing.
Good old marketing. So should I just talk about what I want to talk about?
I think so. I think I want you to lead the charge because there's energy.
I'm all fired up.
Yeah.
Today too.
She's had her coffee. She's fucking amped.
Okay, so this has been on my mind for a long time and I'm really excited to talk about it because first of all, I have this thing where I kind of don't have pet peeves because I think pet peeves are obnoxious.
Having pet peeves is a pet peeve of yours.
Yeah, I'm when people are that's a pet peeve of mine, I'm just oh
my God, I love you.
Well, because I'm choosing to stay annoyed about this thing.
Yeah, okay. I get that.
Having a pet peeve is I am claiming this as part of my identity and it's a thing that I'm always annoyed about.
And I'm giving it power to do that always. Yeah.
And so I think that that's kind of obnoxious. And so I really... if I have something that is a pet peeve, I'm what can I do to not have it annoy me? Well, it's traffic. I was just having this conversation about traffic. I was being annoyed about traffic is so stupid. What a waste of your time and energy.
You can't control it. Yeah.
You can't control it. I was talking to Ben about it. I was put a podcast on. Make that time enjoyable. Call someone you've been meaning to catch up with. But sitting there and being
yeah,
this is a pet peeve of mine. I'm
yeah. No, what's super fun is when you have kids and then your kid is screaming and crying in the back seat and you're why are you crying? And it's because the sun is shining on them. And that's a pet peeve, but just ridiculous things that people get really upset over.
Well,
kids have the best ones.
Twitter account Do you know that Twitter account?
Like is it the like why my kid is crying?
Yes, I love it so much.
It's so funny. It's like I didn't let her eat trash.
Yeah, it's like her shirt has buttons.
Right.
I wouldn't let her wear her clothes in the shower.
I know. And I just but I actually was just looking at one of those threads yesterday, I think. And I was looking at all these little kids just having the worst time of their life. Like this is the worst day they've ever had. And even though it's ridiculous for us, I was like, oh, poor baby. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, I'm like missing those little toddler years because it's ridiculous. But I don't know. There's something about parenting those little psychos that it's not logical. That's not what it's about. Right. It's about like your emotional experience and sensory experience.
Safe. And
and it's like completely
for me, it's always like feeling
thing.
safe and like comfortable and like I don't know.
Yeah,
it's funny because we're watching all the Harry Potter movies right now. We're like working our way through them.
Which one are you on? I love them so much.
Goblet of Fire and the fourth one.
Ah, that one's so good.
It's fun because Ben has only seen the first one, so it's so it's very fun. And they're asking each other to the dance. And Harry like asks, I forget her name, the girl to the dance, but she's already been asked by someone. And there's that moment where she's like, oh no, I'm so sorry. I've already been asked. And so I can't. So he's like experiencing a little bit of rejection. And I just like got a knot in my stomach. And I was like, I looked at Ben and I was just like, oh my God. Everything is so big when you're that young.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like the worst where you're being rejected by somebody you have a crush on or something.
Yeah.
And you're just like, how will I ever overcome this?
I'm not going to survive this. Like, we don't come back from this.
It's so big. And I don't know, just remembering when you're especially like middle school, like the early teenagers, everything. Feels so
earth-shattering.
Feeling included in like a friend group or like not invited to something. And it's just,
it's that whole, I know. And it's this whole idea that because we survive and we grow and we evolve and we like kind of expand our understanding, our emotional capabilities, you know, our consciousness, whatever. And then we look back and we're like, wow, that was so small in retrospect. But the truth is it wasn't. When you're thinking of like, if that same thing was to happen today, it would take up a smaller space because you have expanded. But when it happened to you, it was massive. And I think that so many people oftentimes can can discount, discredit, diminish people's experiences, especially kids, like little kids' experiences, because you're like, that's ridiculous. The sun shines. Why are you losing your mind over it because it's shining on you in the back seat? And it's just like, it's like a practice, though. I feel like we've touched on this before, but practicing remembering how big and important those things were and maintaining that open empathy or something like that.
Totally. I hope I remember it. Did you ever watch that movie with Mr. Rogers? There was a documentary, but then there was also one.
The one with Tom Hanks?
Yeah. I mean, I can't even remember where I got this from. It was one of those two, actually. But that was like a big part of his message because people would always ask him, what makes you so special? And his answers were kind of along the lines of, I remember what it's like to be a kid. And I like validate that experience for them. And he says, I think there's like a famous quote where he says, I don't know if it's like the biggest mistake or something, but it's something along the lines of how adults forget what it's like to be a kid and how that's such a like, it just creates a divide. That's what I like took away from a lot of those when those movies were coming out was just like how powerful what he did was because he like got on the floor and remembered what it was like to be a kid.
Yeah. And especially that time, I feel like we were still in that like kids are stupid. You know what I mean? Like kids are stupid. Totally. They are not emotionally intelligent. Just shove them in the back room. They're going to be fine. They're resilient. They're whatever. And now we're like, actually everything that happens to a child before they're 8 and 10 or whatever in that neuroplasticity stage is critical to their development.
Totally.
Yes.
It's going to be really fun to see how, I don't know. I'm just excited for how we all grow and develop. But anyway, back to my non-pet peeve.
Because you don't have pet peeves.
I had to have a major like tangent there just to say I don't have pet peeves. No. No, but something that like absolutely drives me mad, because one of the things that obviously we're so passionate about, and I feel like is like the premise of this freaking podcast, is that mindset and our interpretations and our perceptions have so much power over our experience and what we're capable of and how we show up and what we accomplish and just like what our life looks like. And there's a thing going on that I see, especially in the world of online coaching and digital marketing, which is like my job and career, where people take that very like big truth. Most of the time, mindset is the thing that I have seen holding people back, stories about themselves, things like that. But then they kind of almost like use it to their advantage to say things like, it is the thing that is wrong with someone and why they are where they are. And they completely ignore very real limitations in a person's life. And it makes me so angry, actually, because it's manipulative and it's wrong. So I feel like I should give an example of that. An example of that would just be something along the lines of when somebody has a digital product or a course where they're a coach, and then they don't get the result that they claim they can get for a particular person. Instead of it being something that's wrong with their program, their teaching, or just the very simple fact that not everything works for everyone.
Right.
Instead of acknowledging that, which is probably really what's happening, they pin it on that person's mindset. And it just makes me so angry because it's ignoring the nuances. And it's like, to me, I call it mindset gaslighting. And it's like the ultimate cop out. And it makes me so mad when I see it, because I see it all the time in the like world that I work in. Anyway, so that's what I would love to talk about and like dig into a little bit today.
I don't know. It's like heartbreaking to me. I don't know. I think especially because our point is mindset. You know what I mean? Like that's the point for some of our things. For Master Your Mindset, obviously a lot about this podcast and stuff. And to
that's why I think it's so important that we're talking about it.
Yeah. I like using it to their advantage because I don't know, it might be a lack of awareness on their part to understand really what's going on. But I think to blame somebody else's mindset for being the cause of some failure is incredibly damaging. It's like so manipulative and probably results in like a whole ricocheting effect in that person that is being blamed for that. They're probably freaking out. Like, well, what is it then? Like, I'm not like, what, you know?
And if you take it to like a certain level, in some cases, I'm sure, and you know, this is a big thing for me, like a big fear for me, is to feel like I'm not perceiving things accurately. Like one of my big stories that I really can struggle with when I'm in like a dark spiral or whatever, where I'm like, is I get to a place where I'm like, wait, am I seeing things accurately? Like I can't tell you the number of times I've gotten to like, Emily, you, and been, wait, Emily, tell me what you're seeing here, because I'm really afraid that I'm not seeing this accurately.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's such a mind fuck. It's like the ultimate mind fuck because, well, quite frankly, if you are not perceiving the world, wouldn't you just feel like you're like in some form of insanity? Like
Absolutely.
It's really fucked up. Because then you're like, I don't see the world correctly.
Right.
This isn't real. This isn't accurate. I mean, if you take it to that degree, it's really scary. It's really scary.
It reminds me of something I grew up in. But yeah, being told effectively that your brain is wrong or your perception of the world is causing you to fail. And the thing is sometimes maybe somebody has a limiting belief that is acting like a barrier, you know what I mean? And that there could be truth there, but that's not the only thing. And as like a creator or somebody who's like trying to teach or offer something to other people, I think that there's like a certain level of responsibility that you have to understand, why is this not working for this person, to ask questions about it, to get like really curious about the things that maybe you're not seeing. And not just a shift blame. Like it's a very childlike, oh, I'm just shifting the blame onto you, you know? And Okay, I do have this thought, this idea, and I wonder what you think about it. It seems like in the last, I don't know, even just like 5 years, it seems it's more in collective consciousness, this idea of mental health and how much mindset plays a role and all these things. And even learning how to connect an emotional element to something like marketing and things like that. And it makes me wonder, it's almost like people have learned some kind of formula to manipulate people via talking about mindset, or I don't know how to say it. It's almost like there's these sleazy car salesmen. They have like a new technique that's mindset, but they use it to still for their own 100%. Like, right? Yes. Their own like personal gains. And it's not actually about helping the other person.
This is absolutely it. And the problem is it's like pervasive in copywriting, which is like what I do. So I see it all the time. It is difficult because I would say, I mean, I've worked with so many students now, and most of the time, even working one-on-one, the thing that is holding them back is mindset, truly. So it's like really hard because when I'm talking to them and they say, oh, I'm having a hard time breaking through this threshold of income, but also I don't feel deserving of money. I feel like people with money are horrible. I grew up in like maybe poverty, you know what I mean? And always saw like my parents were really good people and they were always cutting coupons and pinching pennies and like stuff like that. Right. But like I can't charge my client what my work is worth. You know what I mean? So it's like so easy to sometimes like see that. And I'm like, oh, I would say like 9 times out of 10, it is like mindset.
Yeah.
Right? So because I've worked with so many people and I've seen this 9 times out of 10, it is mindset related. And that's the hard part about this conversation, is because I worry sometimes about having this conversation. People will hear it and it will be their excuse, their scapegoat. Oh my gosh, I'm being manipulated. Oh my gosh. You know what I mean? Because you can take it the other direction and then it can like hurt you. But really the simple thing is the way that you are not like you become somebody who is in the world of marketing or whatever and using marketing and you don't take it to the place of manipulation is you simply just have to acknowledge that there are limitations to like what you can do as a coach, what you can do as a creator, what you can do as a course creator, what you can do as a teacher. If you are just like open-minded and able to at the very, very least acknowledge that there are limitations to what you can do and the results you can get people, it's like as simple as that in my mind.
Right. Yeah.
Because there is a thing that's going on where people blame people's inability to thrive simply on that. And there's so many real things. Struggling with mental health, struggling with chronic health, racism, other forms of discrimination, growing up in poverty.
Yeah.
That's fucking huge to overcome. You have so much. And like, yes, a lot of that's mindset, but like if you don't have parents who helped you through college or, you know what I mean? Like all of that privilege gives you a little bit of a leg up, a lot of a leg up. And all of that is real. And it's very real for people. And it's so hurtful to look at someone who is maybe pushing back against all of that. It's like saying like your experience isn't valid almost. All the things, all the limitations and things, when really you can just, I don't know, leave space in the conversation for like, we all have shit we're overcoming. It's very different for everyone. Right. And whatever you're personally overcoming, mindset work is going to help you a lot, but it isn't everything. You might need to get a therapist. You might need to, I don't know, do what you can just to get yourself financially stable so that you can get to that next level of growth.
Yes.
You know what I mean? This is a hard conversation because there's so much nuance and there's so many different experiences. And so that's also the hard thing about this and marketing and acknowledging this, because again, it's like unique to each individual person. And I don't know, drives me nuts.
I'm so curious. So do you feel like you see people that are claiming that their thing can help everybody? Like their thing can transform? Like are people making huge claims like that?
For me, it's not so much that part, because sometimes there are outliers and unexpected beautiful results where like, I don't know. For example, common objections to like whether or not something will work for me is how old or young I am. That's an easy one to like talk about, right?
Okay.
So people will say this can help anyone of any age. Like it's not limited to age. And people often are like, I'm too old for this thing to work for me. I grew up in a time where like, I'm not tech savvy. I'm not, things like that.
Right.
And so maybe there are outliers. There are people who like come in and they're like 60 years old and they crush this program or whatever. It's just the real problem is not so much to me saying that it can work for more people. The problem is when it doesn't work and they say, it's your fault. It's entirely your fault because of your mindset. To me, that's where the problem lies. Not so much in like the marketing,
the claims
materials
that are made. Okay.
Yeah, because I think that that's a little bit trickier because I am sure they probably have an example of someone who's an outlier who did wonderful. And like that's something that you would absolutely put in your marketing materials, because here's another thing that's like what makes this so tricky is sometimes people need to see someone like them succeed and thrive with whatever this thing is for them to believe that it's possible for them to then go on and be successful at this thing, right?
This is huge. Yes.
Expanders. Mm-hmm. Expanders are so important. People that you come across online in life where you're like, oh, if they can do it, maybe I can do it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, the problem really lies in the person who is talking to someone about why this doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that is like such a subtlety, but I've seen it. I've seen so much of it where people are like,
it's just happening a lot. Yeah.
It's all in your mind.
That's
you
like
guys are taking like a really beautiful like movement and evolution and like hurting people
with it. Yeah.
And I suspect in the next few years, there's going to be a big pushback on like mindset work. I really do.
Because of this.
I really do. I think people are going to be like, it's bullshit. And it's not acknowledging real limitations in my life. And like, fuck you. Mm-hmm. I've already seen it. I've come across like Instagram accounts that are like all about this. And I'm like, this needs to be said.
Yeah.
Africa Brooke is one of my favorite voices on this, by the way. I love her.
Mm-hmm.
Love Africa Brooke. Sorry.
No,
she
it's
talks
like
about this a lot.
Mindset work is going to have to become, and the people that are claiming to do mindset work are going to have to become more
responsible.
They're going to have to be more educated or just like aware and learning about what they're dealing with and acknowledging this part of the responsibility, actually acknowledging those things and responding correctly. What is a correct response? Like if you could tell all these people that are being like, oh, this is your mindset, what's the adjustment that needs to be made for those content creators?
It's a great question.
Marketers.
And it's hard. It's definitely hard. It's hard because, again, it's going to be specific probably to that person. Mm-hmm. I think about this a lot, and I say this to my team when we're like bringing people on for Write Your Way to Freedom. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, isn't this like a nursing? I'm realizing I think I got this from like nurses and people in the medical field. It's like, do no harm. We cannot be creating more harm in these people's lives. Because I've had people come to me, Write Your Way to Freedom is a $2,000 program. It's expensive. And there's an insane amount of support. And there's a reason it's expensive. Mm-hmm. And I feel firmly that it is worth way more than that. In fact, we're increasing the price this year to $3,800 because we're going to make the whole like support system, which is what makes it stand apart, so much more robust, because that's where people see results. And that's what I want. And also, we need a gatekeeper now, because I don't want it to end up in the hands of people it can't help. Right now, pretty much anyone can sign up for it. And there are people who are signing up for it where like English is their second language, and that makes it extremely difficult to support them.
Right.
And quite frankly, one of the things we've been talking about, the people who are going to be like having calls with people and making sure that they're a good fit, because this is very much like not to exclude people, but to make sure it's truly in the hands of people it helps. And the reason we're doing this is because we've ended up in the hands of people that we can't really help, or it's like really difficult because I don't know your level of English. And this whole course is mostly about being a copywriter in like the English speaking market. And so things like that have made me get to a place where I'm making like what feels like a difficult decision. But when I talk to the people on my team, I'm like, look, we've got to, at the end of the day, like do no harm. If we think this is going to put someone in serious debt, or we think it's going to like harm them financially, we need to say this is not a good decision for you. And we have. I often talk people out of buying Write Your Way to Freedom. And I think it's a really important part of my company's mindset, I guess.
Your values and things.
Values, because I've had people who are like, I am living in my car right now. And I'm wondering if this is my ticket out of being homeless. I'm not exaggerating when I say we get stories like that on a daily basis. Like really heartbreaking stories. And I'm like, don't buy Write Your Way to Freedom. Here is a long list of resources that you can like use. And we compile resources for people. But I guess that was a long way of saying that's how I've dealt with it. Is like at the end of the day, you have to be responsible. And people slip through the cracks. Like I can't possibly know the nuances of every single person's situation. I'm hoping that implementing this new process is going to help by not only having more support for people, like checkpoints along the way to check in with them, and also having an actual conversation with them so we can gauge where is their English? Are they in life? Are they going to be able to afford this course? Sure, it might be a stretch financially. They might put it on a credit card. I've done that. But is it going to ultimately get them the like end result so that they can pay it off and then thrive beyond that? And it's absolutely an incredible return on investment. So I guess that was to give this concept some concrete things to think about. But I guess it's just the answer is like, it's up to every person who is making claims around what they can accomplish in someone's life to be responsible to the best of their ability. Like, I know that my courses ended up in the hands of people that it probably can't help as well. And it like breaks my heart. And when they reach out to me, I help them and I support them and I try and like do as much as I can. But it's just about looking at the individual person's like situation and trying to be as responsible as you can, like truly. Like do no harm first is the thing that I tell my team. Anyway, I don't know. It keeps me up at night. I can tell like this is like weighing on you. It's just so interesting hearing you talk because I think I'm not coming from any kind of marketing expertise whatsoever. And so I think that there's like a general belief, skepticism, maybe around people trying to sell something that they're just looking out for number one. They're just wanting to make money. They're actually not really interested in whether or not this is going to work for you. There's just this like overarching, like the sleazy car salesman belief around anybody selling anything. And to hear you speaking about having integrity in your business, that you are not wanting to just sell as many courses as you can sell. You're wanting to make sure these courses, your course falls into the hands of the people that it's going to benefit the most and that are going to have the most success from it, and not people that are going to ultimately be really frustrated or feel limited or not make it through. And I think that that's really beautiful, that kind of integrity. It's interesting. Sorry, I'm all like fired up. But I didn't mean to talk about my course during this. But it's obviously the thing that I have the most knowledge about. Right. But I don't know. Like even that, like I don't even want to talk about my course and what I do on this podcast because like ultimately that is not the point of this. Right.
Right.
But I know because, well, you're going to be going into coaching and you're starting your own coaching program. And I have no doubt that you're going to do it with integrity. That's like a core value that we share is we try our fucking damnedest to be some decent people. That's just like what we're doing out here. We're trying. We fuck up a lot, but just get back on that horse. So this is something that I think you're going to be really thinking about. And then once you are in that world and you start seeing what other people are doing, you're going to see it all the time. And I know you have experiences with it, like on the receiving end. And I don't know if you want to like share a little bit about that because it's like
wild. The whole idea of ethical marketing, you know what I mean? Taking it one step further to what is ethical in marketing and like how people can be downright abusive. And I have been on the receiving end of very unethical, abusive marketing. And it's interesting because I would consider myself a relatively, I don't know, like I feel like I would be able to see something coming or like have some suspicion like, oh, this is bullshit. Although I do have like a gullible streak too. I don't know. Maybe I'm like a great candidate.
Yes, and.
But both and. But yeah, early in 2021, I was just like going through a really challenging time in my personal life. And I had been researching and looking at different courses and different coaches and therapists and all sorts of different things for people that directly intentionally supported the certain situation I was experiencing. I was like really, really desperately feeling like I needed support. And it was really appealing to me to get support with somebody who was claiming to be an expert in this area, right? And so there was one particular, it was actually like a therapy group, and it was like a course that you would go through. And I don't know, I think I had my guard way down because I was like, this is a group of therapists. They have like an ethical standard that they commit to. And just thinking like, this is, I think, a relatively safe thing. I'm not trying to like buy some random material thing or whatever. I'm interested potentially in a course made by a group of therapists.
Right.
And so I had scheduled a call with them. It was just
a
like
sales call.
Yeah. And can I just say, first of all, that this woman that I talked to is fucking brilliant. I feel like somehow they weaponized therapists, like is what they did. This particular group took a brilliant therapist who understood the human psyche, weaponized her to make sales in a very not ethical way. And playing it back after I got off the phone with her and playing it back, I see what she did. She like got me into a really, really vulnerable space right off the bat. She got me
by asking you questions and saying,
by asking me really personal questions. And she got me to share really, really vulnerable things to get my guard down. And then she just like went on the attack to get me to spend thousands of dollars.
How much was the program?
The program was, I think it was like $5,000.
Yeah.
It was not like a small amount of money. So can I just say, she kept me on the phone for over an hour, despite me multiple times saying, I need to get off the phone. I was crying. She kept me on the phone. I'm crying because she's pressuring me. And the things that she was saying was like, you're doing this for you if you really believed in yourself. If you really truly believed in yourself, if you really cared about your kids, if you really cared and loved your kids and wanted the best life for them, without even hesitating, you would purchase this. This is the kind of stuff she was saying. Like, so she like really got in, she found my weak point. She got me vulnerable right in the beginning, found my like tenderest weak point, which would be my children's well-being. And she exploited that to try to make a sale. And the whole time she kept saying, it's not about the money. It's not about the money. And I kept being like, if it's not about the money, give it to me for free then. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, like I said that I was like, and she's like, no, because by spending money, you're committing to yourself and it's like a mark of commitment. So she had all these comebacks for everything that I was saying. And she really like, I don't think outside of maybe some really sketchy things I experienced in my religious upbringing, I have not since then, and especially not as like a full grown adult, ever experienced that level of emotional abuse and manipulation. And when I finally got off the phone, I finally was able to actually, now that I'm remembering it, I tried to make the down payment and I thank God whatever I used declined. Like I just didn't have the money on it and it declined. And after that happened, I remember I just like broke down crying. I'm in the parking lot waiting to get my kids like COVID tested. And this lady wouldn't let me off the phone. Granted, I should have just hung up. I should have just been like, fuck you, and hung up. But I was she kept like hooking, guys, I don't know. It was so fucking awful. And I was in a horrible place. Like in my life, I was so exhausted and like emotionally like worn down. I was extremely susceptible, I think, to this tactic. Anyway, I remember when I finally got off the phone, I just like broke down crying in the car. My girls were in the parking lot and they're like climbing on top of me and being like, Mommy, it's okay. It's okay. And they had to see this whole thing happen. It's like making me cry because I felt so violated by that. And it was so damaging. And I just like didn't like a group of therapists. It was like, I never even considered that they would be operating with such predatory, harmful behavior. And it was so damaging. And I'm thinking they're just out there preying on these women that are in these like really vulnerable circumstances to get a sale. And these poor women that go through it and spend $5,000 without consulting their partners. There was a whole part of it. She was like, no, don't consult your partner. We actually have a part in the course where we support you in explaining to your partner that you've spent $5,000. It just was like so sickening. Anyway, that is my story.
I'm just so like, thank you for sharing it because I can't remember being so angry. Because you called me and I like, as you were just starting to tell the story, I knew exactly what happened. Because, I mean, quite frankly, this is like copywriting at its worst. It's copywriting, it's sales tactics. It's the reason I'm so surprised. If you had like gone back in time and told me that I would be a copywriter and a marketer, I would have been like, no fucking chance. Because I was so repulsed by it. Because I've had experiences similar to this. It's so fucking hard and complicated because it can be weaponized. It is weaponized. It's been weaponized for decades. Like it happens. Like nothing like makes me more angry, especially because it's like the world I'm in. And it's a part of what I have to talk to people about when they come to like be copywriters. I'm like, you can be a good guy in marketing. You don't have to like go this route because at the end of the day, it's about ending up in the right people's hands. It's not about trying to like convince every single person. And if somebody is in like a place where you were causing harm to them, look, if you're playing the long game, causing harm to someone like you is so hurtful for your business and your reputation, and everything that you stand for is garbage. Like you're bad. And if you're causing harm, you're not playing the long game. Like you're not doing the best thing that you can do for the people you serve and for who you are as you show up in the world as a business.
Yeah.
I really firmly believe it will come back to bite them. I do. I can't think of something that makes me like more angry than this right now in my life. Like it makes me so fucking angry because what they did in that situation is they figured out what your pain points were. And I actually think this is something that I tell people this when they're learning copyright. I'm like, one of the beautiful things about this is that when you are aware of it and you come to learn it, it is so much less effective on you. So actually it might be a good idea to kind of walk through what that person did a little bit. Because when you know what they're doing, then it's not as powerful. And so learning copywriting and marketing and like psychological techniques is actually beneficial because you see it. You're like, oh, she identified my pain points, my most vulnerable pain points. She got you to a place where you were really like your reptilian brain was kicked on. You were in fight or flight. You were in survival mode. You felt like you were probably like almost dying. All the feelings that come with being extremely emotionally charged, which is where you're like in a state of fear and survival. And then she presented herself as the only solution to all of your problems and the obvious solution. And then it's just like, it's so fucked up because you can get to people's pain points. I also add to also not just get to their pain points, but more get them to their desires. Because that's another way that you can do a same thing, but not have them from a place of fear making decisions.
Yes.
Where you're like, what is your desires? Where is it that you want to be? And can I realistically help you get there? You know, being realistic about getting there too is by saying like, people will say the same thing. Oh, if you're so passionate about it, then just give me the course for free. And I'm like, I can't do that because I have to pay the people who support the students. But you can do it for free. There are alternatives. I did not have Write Your Way to Freedom to become a successful copywriter. And that's also the difference, is acknowledging that there are other ways to get there. And so I will give them a list of free resources. I'm like, I literally have a YouTube channel that is completely free and helps people who want to become copywriters. And here's where you can go. And maybe you'll start earning a little bit of money and decide you want to come back.
And can invest in it.
And then can invest in it from a reasonable, responsible place. I do that all the time. And like that is, I don't know. This is like one of my biggest concerns about the like huge uptick in coaches and consultants is this. Like I'm just so afraid because I know that copywriting and copywriting strategies and all the psychological stuff that's taught there's bros out there. It's like, honestly, the bros have been doing it to each other for decades. You know, they're the ones in the front of their Ferraris and their Lamborghinis, just like selling each other shit and their ego and like using marketing tactics. Like, it's funny because I'm in a mastermind that's all dudes and they're like talking about how they gave me a recommendation. I got a recommendation recently on a YouTube ad I had where they were like, you're focusing too much on the desires and you need to focus on their pain points. Like, for example, one of the ads we saw previously was, don't you feel like a loser going into your 9 to 5 every day?
Oh my God.
And I just was like, it's taken some time to get to a place where I'm just like laughed at this kind of advice. Because I just laughed and I was like, there is zero chance I'm putting that in my ad. He was like, yeah, but then you'll touch on the fact that they feel like they're just like so disgusted with themselves. And I'm like, yeah, it's never going to happen. I was like, that is so disgusting. And not only that, like, I don't want people coming into my course feeling that way. I don't want people like engaging with me feeling that way. And not only that, I think I have more respect for my audience because I'm like, not only that, but I really hope that they would see through that bullshit.
Yeah.
I really, really do. I really hope that they would see it for what it was. And I think that that's actually a big thing is I talk about it a lot. It's like having respect for your audience, that they're smarter than that and like giving them like credit to like meet you at a higher place.
Yes.
Look, you can tap into fear and the reptilian brain all day long. And I definitely talk about how you should talk to them with emotion because we do make decisions from our emotions. You can go to like the lower vibe emotions, like
negative,
fear,
yeah,
making them feel like a loser. I'm just like, no, it's bro marketing is what it is.
Bro marketing. Now, if we're talking about pet peeves.
And I'm like, we are about that feminine energy in our marketing.
For real.
Where it's like imagining yourself in a new place. Does that feel good? Do you feel expanded? Do you feel bigger?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because this is actually the point. It's like getting people to make a decision from a place that it makes them feel bigger.
Yes. Powerful.
Empowered. Rather than making them make a decision from a place where you feel small.
And like a piece of shit.
How small did you feel in that fucking moment? Like you were making a decision from the smallest, most disempowered place. And it's so fucked up. And it's also, quite frankly, not necessary. The thing is, okay, this is it. The big thing about this kind of marketing is that I'm willing to bet there is a decent chance that that program is actually good and helpful. But what people do is they teach their sales teams and they teach the people doing the marketing on the front end that they have to get people into the program with whatever means necessary so that they can then achieve the results. And that's how they justify that shitty, fucked up, no good tactics. And then what happens is this theory is reinforced because they see people come into the program all damaged, broken,
and then it's
upset.
working.
They get rebuilt. They actually have results. And then they're grateful that they did it in the end.
Yeah.
And that is what they use to teach their sales teams. They're like, see, it was necessary. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. It wasn't necessary.
And not in alignment at all whatsoever with their values. It's wild to me. And the funny thing is I did research about this company. And before I even booked the call, I would never have booked the call if I saw like a bunch of bad reviews and stuff. It was all like, this was really powerful. This helped me, like all this stuff. People were like, it was expensive, but ultimately it was worth it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, so I went in already feeling kind of trusting of it. And then after the fact, I did like deeper digging, like on Reddit. And I saw people being like, they have really predatory marketing techniques and stuff like that. But an interesting thought I had while you were talking, it's almost like a belief system that we collectively have around taking some person from one place to another place, from their current state to their desired state, right?
So transformation.
The transformation. And I feel like we're still operating in an archaic belief that you have to be really hard on somebody. You have to be militant with them. You have to beat them down. You have to humiliate them. You have to make them really dig deep and really fucking want it. And this applies to sports. It applies to music, in the dance world. It applies in so many different areas where you're like so intense and belittling and hard on these people to get them to be strong and rise up and like achieve this desired outcome.
It's the patriarchy.
It's the fucking patriarchy. What isn't? Jesus.
No, it really is. It's like such an old, it's like how parents, raise
like I'm going to beat
it's
my
like,
kid. Yeah.
into being stronger. What?
Yeah, or into being nicer to their siblings. Like, I'm just going to beat them because, like, it's just like, it's such backwards thinking. And I do think, though, when you're going backwards in time in a place where it was more about survival, maybe there was like, it doesn't come out of nowhere. Like, it obviously served a purpose at a certain point in time when you had to fucking survive and you couldn't be emotional. Like, you didn't have the time, you didn't have the energy, we didn't live long enough. You just had to fucking get it done.
There wasn't enough time to be emotional.
There wasn't enough time because you're going to die when you turn 30. Yeah, like, so like it makes sense that this way of thinking, it served a purpose at one point in time. And I would say there's probably even certain industries where it still is more applicable.
This is really interesting. Keep going. I'm loving this.
Yeah, but it's this whole idea of like, can you create an incredible athlete by building them up and making them feel really big and supported and empathized with and encouraged? Can that happen?
It's like the Chicago Bulls.
We're going to talk about the football. Have I seen a football documentary?
It's basketball. I
don't know the basketball either. And no, I have not seen that documentary.
Okay, wait, what? The Michael Jordan documentary about the Chicago Bulls?
No,
you have to watch it. You have to. Oh, gosh, I keep recommending all these like sport things to you.
I know, and I'll do it because I love you. Like,
okay, listen, you're going to love it. Listen, this is why you're going to love it.
I'm hearing.
Greatest basketball team of all time. It's so weird that I'm talking about sports as much as I am because I really don't like sports all that much.
We've never talked about sports as much as we have in like the last like 2 weeks.
I know. And we're talking about it nonstop. Ben was so proud. I was like, on the podcast, we talked about football and he was like, what'd you say? And I like told him, I was like talking about Gronks and he was like, oh my God, I love that. It's so hot.
Oh my God.
Okay, wait, no. But the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan, that was like big because I think I was like in high school. It was just huge. It was like Space Jam and it was so big and you couldn't miss it. Yeah. But wait, the thing is the coach, I'm blanking on his name. Damn it. He is a legend. First of all, he's like super into like Native American spiritualism and he was into mindset and meditation and visualizing things. And he was so like revolutionary in the world of sports because he wasn't this like militant dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Emily, you're going to love this. He was all about playing to the like each player's strengths and letting them be them and their authentic self. Like Dennis Rodman was like an absolute just like unique character. He was like dyeing his hair. I don't know. He's like definitely kinky and bisexual and like got all kinds. I don't know that for sure, but I'm like, I know that for sure. And he's just like, and do you know who Dennis Rodman is? Okay. I don't know. There were times where he like needed to like release off steam. Like he couldn't be his best self and constantly be training. He needed to go to Vegas and like party hard. And this coach would like let him do that because he was like, it's Dennis Rodman living his best life. He needs to be authentic to who he is. We're going to let him go like burn off some steam and then we're going to pull him back in. And like, and everybody was just like, this is insane. Like you can't do that at this level of basketball. Right. But this was his like, he was like 10 years ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
And that is why they had such a successful team because he played to everyone's strengths and he was like all about all of this stuff. Because he did it from like, let's empower everyone to like really show up as the best version of themselves.
Yes.
And that's how he got the Chicago Bulls. Like, yeah, all the guys on the team were awesome, but they all also really credit a lot of like their success to his approach, which is this, which is all of this shit. And it's, I can't believe I can't remember his name because I'm obsessed with this man. I think he's like one of the coolest humans to like... and everyone thought it was so weird because he like in his office he had I don't know, it wasn't like crystals, but it was like the equivalent of crystals. Sure. And they would just like walk into this epic coach's office and he's like
who is
very woo woo.
Yeah, yeah. Whoa. See, this is like it's not masculine or feminine. It's the balance. It's the marriage of the two.
Yeah.
Because I think when you're too far on one end, it does. It's like the very assertive masculine and negative expression of that energy. Because I do think there's positive and negative expressions of it, but it can be like so damaging and hard, and you have to overcome. And like, have you ever seen that movie Whiplash?
Yes.
That's a really great example of the negative expression of masculine energy, where this kid became great because he had to fucking stick it to his teacher. Like he had to get back at his teacher, and that's how he became great. And now that is a very negative motivation. You know what I mean? And it's like,
it only works on some people.
Right. And then it's like, how many more people would be able to achieve their desired goal and it actually not being traumatizing for them, but actually like empowering to them in like a really positive way, if we were able to approach it with more of what the Chicago Bulls coach was able to access, seeing the individual, appealing to their strengths, empathy, you know what I mean? Like you were saying, not making them feel small, but making them feel big. Yeah.
I mean, people even gave him a hard time for letting Dennis Rodman dye his hair crazy colors and stuff like that. And he was just like, he like defended him. He was like, no, this is Dennis Rodman and I stand by him. And how amazing that must have felt, especially back then, because that was like so crazy. Now people like do things like that. Like Dennis Rodman like paved the way for like self-expression and like professional sports.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. In a world that's like very dominated by like, like masculine energy and like
it's military. Yeah.
yeah. And so I don't know. I love it so much because I think that that's the better way. The Whiplash way only works for some people. You know what I mean? I think that so many more people respond to a more personalized approach. The Chicago
Whiplash
Bulls.
or Chicago
What's
Bulls?
His name? I'm looking up his name.
Look at
talking. I need to know.
We do need to know. Can I just say for the record, sidebar?
Are we going to get to a point where we're Joe Rogan and we have someone who's like, yo, look up the coach's name?
Can we please? Except
we
not
need
like
a person.
Yeah, we need a person. But not Joe Rogan. I got triggered.
But like that's like a new
I'm fucking triggered. No, can I just say if anybody's wanting to get me to watch a sports thing, that was a great pitch. I'm like all about watching that documentary now, Sarah.
Phil Jackson, man. What a legend. Fucking love that man. He's like one of my favorite people I've learned about in the last 10 years is Phil Jackson.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll watch it for sure. And then we could talk about the sports more. It'll be great.
This is like so random.
I know.
This is like the most I've talked about sports in my entire life. It just,
I think
you know what it is? It's because they are examples of people who have achieved a really high level of greatness in their particular field of study. And to get there, they have to do some crazy shit. That's why they're so interesting to me.
Yeah.
And also you're going to love, I think, Michael Jordan's mindset. Because that is something, I knew he was an incredible athlete, but his mind is incredible. And that was really fun to watch too. Because I was like, damn, I just thought you were like physically impressive, but you are mentally impressive. And so, I like want to watch it again so we can.
Let's watch it. And then we have a whole podcast about the sports.
The sports.
Podcast about the sports.
It's kind of like Reply All, which is one of my favorite podcasts. They have a segment called Yes, Yes, No, where they explain a tweet to their producer who like doesn't understand any like mainstream cultural event. Yeah. And then they started one called Sports, and they do the same thing with sports.
That's so funny. We could do sports for sure.
Where I try and explain something to you.
You just have a sports thing. I don't know if I would be as that would be funny though.
What? It's got to just be like a ridiculous. Yeah, it has to be something that I know you'll be like, what the fuck?
And then I'm just gonna be tired. I'm just gonna need to take a nap. People are like this.
Yeah,
I know.
It's good. It's a whole different world. But anyway, back to like marketing and stuff. It's such an important conversation to have about all of this. And the thing is, like, I actually really love teaching people copywriting because it makes them less susceptible. I mean, when Trump would have political speeches, it was incredible to see how he used copywriting techniques. A lot of politicians do, where you're like, oh, I know what that is. And then you're like, I see right through it. When I hop on the sales call with someone, it's like hilarious to me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like, Uh-huh. Oh, you want me to share my pain points with you? Let's do it.
Uh-huh.
Here's all the places. Okay, now your turn. You tell me how you're the solution to all my problems.
Yeah. You're like in the know. I mean, honestly, I wonder if there's like a responsibility to like, I guess what I'm saying is I wish more people understood that. Understood they were under a constant like onslaught of advertising and like understood what are the techniques? How can I actually make good conscious decisions? How am I being swayed? And just being aware of yourself. Because I do have to say, like kind of going back to what you were saying earlier about how one of the worst feelings is when you feel like you're not perceiving reality correctly. And that's essentially like being manipulated. Like when you're manipulated, you're being told, no, your reality is not right. This reality is right. And you need to get on board. And I do feel like maybe my personality, like, I don't know, I'm very trusting. I can be a little gullible and I believe the best in people. Like, surely this person isn't meaning me harm or isn't, and I kind of move through the world like that.
That's the thing, though. Those people, I really believe that the thing that they're selling to their own sales team, this is a common thing,
right?
Is that they have something of quality, but these people are in difficult places where they can't really make the best decisions for themselves. And so it's okay to unleash all of your weapons on them because ultimately they're going to be satisfied with the product. And therefore it justifies the means. That is a common thing that people teach people in sales training. Yes. And I'm like, that is such bullshit. Like, it's like so not true. It's so not true. But that's how people justify using that kind of. Sorry, I just like really needed to like. Yeah. And there are some people who really buy into that. And they think that what they're doing is okay or justified.
Right. I don't know, because like, I do feel like I personally can have a really good read on a person, even if I'm just talking to them on the phone. And I didn't feel like I was talking to like a bad, malicious person. I do think she truly believed and that she was like trying to save me because I mean, the amount of energy that she put, I was just like, and so like that is this like really interesting sweet spot that I just like got so caught up in. But I think what I wanted to just touch on for people, because I'm sure there's people listening that identify with me and maybe have been on the receiving end of not ethical marketing.
I've been on the receiving end of many of these calls.
Right. We were talking about wishing that people were more aware of these tactics and techniques. But I do think the thing that I took away from that awful experience is that I have to listen to my inner alarm system. It was fucking going off the whole time, but she kept looping me back in and I kept listening to her instead of listening to this alarm system that was like, fucking run. Like, this is not good. And my indicator, because alarm system is obviously very abstract and it's probably different for everybody, but my indicator that I'm being manipulated is I start getting real confused and uncomfortable. And it's this idea that I'm not perceiving my reality correctly. And the truth is nobody's allowed to tell me what my reality is. Ultimately, I decide that, you know what I mean, for myself. But anytime I've been manipulated, this pervasive confusion has accompanied that. And I've had to get really familiar with that feeling of feeling like really confused about myself and who I am and my understanding of myself. So my takeaway from that was I was just like, if I even get a whiff of that, like a hint of that, like confusion, that alarm going off, I need to immediately go into like a different place where
hang up on them. That's the other thing. I was like, just hang up on them.
I don't know if it's like some old school phone etiquette. I literally think I've only ever hung up on somebody once or twice in my life. So it was like weird. I think it was like really weird for me. Anyway, I just fucking was like bananas. But now I have just so much more. I don't know. I was just I was in a bad place, man. I'm like,
it's so fucked up. And like, I really think that there's something, I want to just call it out one more time because it's really important. Because I really bet the reason you didn't pick up on the fact that she was like, you're like, it didn't feel like I was talking to like a malicious bad person. I really bet that she has bought into the idea that that's the best and only way to like get people through the program. And that ultimately on the other side, they're going to be grateful they did it. And therefore it like justifies the means. And that is something that is total bullshit. Like absolute trash psychology sales,
it reminds me
marketing bullshit.
It reminds me of evangelicalism. That's how you tried to save people's souls.
Mm-hmm.
You had to like convince them that they're broken.
Extreme.
Mm-hmm. But it was the norm for me. Come on, people. If you know me by now, you know that.
I know. It's just our religious upbringing was so different and mine was so positive. So sometimes you say things like that and I'm like,
mine was
not
so
everyone.
Bad. Listen,
we should talk about that sometime.
This is what's on the forefront of my mind. I've been doing all this research around religious trauma and I've been talking to a ton of people online about it too. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah, so it's top of mind.
It's top of mind, and it's like the worst case scenarios are top of mind right now. So I'm like fully in this.
I know. It's good. It's good because it's true. It like happens. For some reason, all my closest friends have been in cults because I feel like that's the thing. It's like culty versus like
culty and not so culty.
Culty and not culty.
Culty pro or culty light.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah, I think that this is actually really important to talk about because I think when people are aware of it, it makes them less susceptible to it. There's no sales technique that could work on me, I feel like, at this point. Like, I just know it all, and I've seen it all so much, and I work in it, and I use them ethically. Mm-hmm. Lo and behold, you can have a very successful business by being ethical.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing is, I always say, like, we're playing the long game here. I want people who interact with me to have a positive experience. Obviously, there are exceptions. There are people who come and like attack me and I'm like, have no qualms with being like, hello, boundary. Yeah. I will push right back on you because I do not need to like lay down like a rug and take it. The customer is not always right. But yeah, I'm just so glad we're talking about this because I don't want people to fall into these situations. And I want them to know that there are good guys and bad guys out there. Mm-hmm. Like there are people who are doing great things and like marketing isn't always bad. That was a huge, huge mindset shift for me. Like it can be done well. Because at the end of the day, like the example I give my students, I'm like, if you had the cure for cancer, you would have to market it. People wouldn't believe it. Right. They wouldn't trust it. They would be so skeptical and have all these objections. Even if you were like, literally, there's no downside and literally it will save you. You would still have to market it for it to be successful and to end up in people's hands. Yeah. And there are products and services that are wonderful and amazing. And they still need to market too, because they need to be just as loud, if not louder, than all these shitty people, these shitty marketers. Yeah. So they like, it doesn't mean all marketing is bad. It really, really doesn't. Mm-hmm. But being an educated consumer is part of the world we live in today.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I say that all the time. Like the consumer today is far smarter and more savvy than the consumer in like the 50s.
Yeah.
Because we've grown up with like marketing in our face all the time. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. Like we should be talking to our people with respect and belief that they are sovereign, intelligent humans and have a quality product or service. And marketing's not that hard. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, you don't need to be as like aggressive as that woman is. When you have something that really speaks for itself, then you can focus on testimonials and case studies and like the truth.
Yeah.
I don't know. God, it just makes me so mad.
It's wild.
It makes me cringe.
I know. It's like we need more this whole idea of like, good guys.
Good guys in marketing. That's what I say.
Conscious marketing. Conscious ethical marketing. Like it would fucking change so many things.
It's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening. It's less and less like clickbait and shit like that works on people. And I think
because people are, it's getting less effective.
It's less effective because people are becoming more educated and aware. And it's great. I'm here for it. Let's do it. That's actually why when I'm in my copy, I like call out what I'm doing in the copywriting. I'm like, here's the part where I establish credibility. Boop, boop, boop. Got to do it though, because if I don't, you won't know why you should listen to me. So real quick, I'm going to pop into like explaining why I'm qualified to speak on this subject. Or here's the point where I like address an objection you have, because guess what? If you're thinking this is too good to be true at this point, no surprise. It does sound too good to be true. Like I'm here with you. I'm here with you as you're reading this material. I'm explaining to you what I'm doing. And I found it to be really like feel better for me. And also it's effective because, again, at the end of the day, talking to your people with respect is the best thing that you can do. Yes. And that woman had no respect for you.
No.
And that makes me so angry. And thank you for sharing it. I wasn't sure if you'd want to share that story because it was really rough.
And I do have like, there's part of me that feels like embarrassed that like I went so far with it and that I got so caught up in it and I felt very violated and everything like that and confused. It was awful. And I have a lot of compassion for myself. I know I was in like a really, really bad place. I was fucking sleep deprived and like it just like I was in a very susceptible place to something like that. But yeah, it was, I don't know. I feel for people who kind of like.
Well, that's why you sharing. Yeah, that's why you sharing it was like huge because for people who have gone through something like that, it's fucking traumatic. Not only is it traumatic, it pisses me off because it makes the people out there who are like trying to do the right thing, like it just makes all of us marketers.
It like, hurts everything. Yeah.
And I'm like, ugh. So that bums me out for that in general. But yeah, you sharing that is so important, I think, because one, people can learn from it when they come across it and they can know they can just hang the fuck up.
Hang the phone the fuck up.
Hang up. But two, hopefully, it's interesting because I don't know to what extent people are aware of this stuff and to what extent it interests people. So I'm actually like, I'm kind of interested to hear feedback from this particular episode.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I think about it nonstop. Nonstop. I just want to help people make good decisions and not be affected by bro marketing.
Bro marketing. Do you feel like a loser?
You going into your cubicle every day, 9 to 5, looking like a loser. Can't get the girl. With your shitty clothes and your Toyota Prius. You're never going to get a girlfriend.
Can I just say something? There was like a window. I have a hemp company, Darling Hemp. And my whole thing when Luke and we were doing the branding on all of that, I was like, please, can we please have something that's a little bit more gender neutral? Can we have something that isn't all bro marketing? So we created this gorgeous Art Nouveau hemp company that is called Darling. And I just was like, I love everything about it. And then I've gone to like Vegas to fucking head shop conventions. And can I just say it's exclusively bros?
Yes.
It's like, it's bro convention because of just the industry. It's whatever. It's fine.
Yes.
That's what it is. Head shops. Okay. I get it. And I'm looking at all the other hemp brands and CBD brands and bong brands, and it's all like neon green and black and like stuff like this. And then there's Darling Hemp, which is like a pastel salmon pink and gray and like all this like beautiful, and the product is like gorgeous and amazing and wonderfully sourced and all the things. But it's just, I don't know, it's just like a tangent on the bro marketing. Our booth stood out so much, and across the board, everyone was like best branding. Branding across the board because it was appealing to both men and women. Like it was appealing to everyone, and it was just beautiful to look at, and it wasn't obnoxious. And it made me so happy because I had this like feeling. I'd never created a product before. And I had this feeling in my heart that I wanted it to be more feminine. And man, I like pitched it to like all the guys that were like doing the whole thing. And I was like, it's gotta be this way. And it ended up being really, really beautiful. And I think tapped into something super unique. And it's just, I guess it goes back to that whole balancing both of those masculine and feminine energies is I think the direction we're all wanting to head. And I think that's going to be really appealing to all of us. But yeah.
Listen, this is why I'm so passionate about getting women into entrepreneurship and in marketing. One of my fucking favorite questions that people ask me about copywriting is, I cannot tell you the number of men who are like, are there men copywriters? Because I only see like women in your group. Because it's mostly women. Yeah. And I am just like, I'm winning because copywriting is a male dominated industry.
Yeah.
Like it is like Mad Men. That is about the origins of like advertising, marketing, and copywriting. Yeah. That is like where it all like came from. Like these men. Sorry, not about men, but just like the bro marketing. And so when people come to me and they think that copywriting is a female dominated industry, I am like, I'm doing things.
The champion. I fucking love it. It is. You're like the Facebook group, the whole core of like your thing is this like beautiful, badass boss bitch, these amazing women that are getting shit done. Sometimes I just go on your Facebook and I'll just like scroll through it. And I love it because I was like, what are the first people in your Facebook group?
In the Write Your Way to Freedom Facebook group. So
you can just
like
write
there
comments.
are people in it and you can just be like you.
And I did at the very beginning. I was just commenting on everything, even though I didn't fucking know anything. I was like, oh, interesting. I think that's really yeah, I was like doing that.
Keep up the good work, guys.
But I just love seeing it evolve. And I just think it's spot on. It's like what is needed. It is absolutely what is needed. And I think that's why it's working and it will continue to work and is going to benefit the people that are part of it. Yeah.
Even the guys that do come into it, because that's the thing is I'm like, if that makes you uncomfortable, then like, by all means, this might not be the course for you. There's lots of bros talking about copywriting and how you can buy a Lamborghini with the money you make. And even the guys in my course, one of them, Ryan, who I just absolutely adore because he's got a very like masculine presence. And we've done 2 student success story interviews, but he still like was attracted to the course for the same like ethical reasons. And he told this beautiful story about how he was on a call with a potential client who was like, we're going to include this in the copy, but our product doesn't actually do that. And he was like, that's disgusting. I'm out.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, fine, we'll find another copywriter. He was like, fine, it won't be me. And he just like pieced out. And I was like, yes.
Amazing. Yeah.
Like, that's what we need. We need people who are like, no, that's gross.
Yeah.
And that's
integrity.
not what I'm
they
about.
Have their own personal integrity. And honestly, and it's interesting how much it comes from scarcity. And I know, I don't know, I feel like we've talked about it, but if you truly, have that integrity and believe in yourself and keep yourself in alignment with that and not operate under scarcity and truly doing things that are in alignment with you, it's just a completely different way of thinking that we're all shifting into.
Yes, that's it. Have something quality and you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But then there's the people who have something quality and they don't want to market it because they're so horrified by the marketing that they've seen, so they don't want to market it.
But that's why I'm glad you're my best friend.
Well, I'm always like, I have to convince those people. I've had this conversation so many times where I'm like, it doesn't matter how amazing your product or service is. You have to market it, but you can do it ethically. You can do it ethically. You don't have to be a bad guy in marketing. You can be a good guy. I used to call us team white hats because I was obsessed with that show Scandal. And Olivia Pope was like, they wore the white hat and they were good, except for they got real dark at the end. Anyway. But yeah, I feel for the people who are like, I don't want to market myself because it's so gross. And I'm just like, that's so unfortunate because you are the kind of person who should be marketing yourself
to have their product out there.
We need you. We need you. We need
And this whole idea of changing the narrative around marketing, that it like changing the whole industry into something that is an industry of integrity and speaking truth and communicating with empathy and not manipulating people to their own demise, that they're like hurting because of it. But truly, like when I think about launching my little coaching biz, I totally have resistance around how am I going to market this? But every time I have that thought, I was like, Sarah will help me. Sarah's going to help me. I've got like
I got you.
My BFF is like a pro at this. But it's funny because I'm totally like, if it wasn't for
resistance.
you, I would have been like that person of like, oh, I can't market this. Like it's just,
I'm just going
to exist out there.
Somebody finds it.
The right people will find it. Yeah. No.
Yeah. You have to market yourself. It reminds me, actually, this is so like weird and nerdy of me, but like for some reason, there's a scene. Okay. I'm having this weird obsession with the Medici family.
I know of this.
Which is like,
fucking love you.
You can wrap it up with this, maybe.
Can I just say that she dreams in Medici? Like,
yes, I literally bought an insanely extravagant, over the top, expensive $1,000 dress I immediately returned it because it was so ridiculous.
I'm glad you tried it on and sent me a video.
But I did. I just like this dress was like sent to me through an Instagram ad and it looks like insane. And Ben, I put it on. I didn't even tell Ben and he was like, oh, it's a Medici dress.
Yes. You're like, yes.
He knew. I dream about them. I've read 2 books on them now. I watched the Netflix series.
So much.
I'm obsessed. Cosimo de' Medici is in our living room. I had no idea who he was though. Now I'm so grateful. I keep asking Ben if we can name our children Cosimo and Lorenzo. This is how deep this obsession goes. But anyway,
oh my God, I fucking love you.
There's this whole thing where like Cosimo did not want to be the leader of his family. He goes on to be the greatest leader of the Medici family, but he didn't want to be the leader of the family because he didn't want to be really like a banker. He just didn't want all that power. He was worried about like being corrupt and like so much, like all the stuff that comes with being that powerful and that rich and like whatever. And his dad was like, that's why you're the perfect leader. You are the perfect leader for this family because you don't want power. And like, it's just like that.
It is like really just like that.
Trying to weave in a Medici, like, okay.
Fucking love it.
It is just like that. The people who need to be at the forefront of like effective marketing are the ones who are resistant to it because of all the slimy shit that's out there. It really is that. Yes. Like you are Cosimo and we need you.
Yes. Fuck yeah. Oh my God, I fucking love that. Can you please do Medici metaphors as often as possible? That would be amazing.
I think in Medici.
Yeah.
I literally like walk around the house and I'm like, the Medici.
I love that so much. It's a perfect wrap up.
I have to add the reason I love the Medici family so much. Yes, they were fucked up in some ways. I mean, I don't know how they could be as powerful as they were. They're like literally one of the most powerful, influential families in the history of human history, which I had no idea. I'm like, how do we not all know about them? But it's because of what they did. They like, and I mean, yes, peacetime is more beneficial for banking. Like that's true. Ben's always like trying to remind me of that because he's like, they're not just like all good, you know. It was like lucrative to like promote peace and art and science, but also they didn't have to do that. Like so many families grabbed power through force and war, and they did it through like paying artists and like encouraging science. And I'm just like,
see, this is the whiplash.
It's the difference.
It's the whiplash Chicago Bulls effect.
It is. They're like Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson to Medici.
The Phil Jackson effect. I love
the Medici
it. Oh my
effect.
God. The Medici effect.
The Medici. Okay.
I love it. Oh my God. So good. This is like the best. We're like getting so fucking good at podcasting.
Are we? Oh, I just cringed. Full body cringe.
I know. Well,
it's good. I'm glad you're feeling good.
No, I just feel like we're having a lot of fun.
No, it's
I just feel like we're having a lot of fun. Yeah.
It's coming easier. It's funny.
Yeah.
First few ones were like, hi, how are you doing? We still don't know how to end it.
We don't know how to start it or end it. So it's just chaos. It's bookended in chaos. Just expect it.
Yeah. Bookended and then I love you.
Oh, I did want to say, because I feel like we should like put this in the podcast, but we do have a Patreon.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we've mentioned it like once.
Yes.
We do have a Patreon that we have secret episodes on, that we release a few a month on there.
And 2 a month for now, maybe more in the future.
2 a month for now.
We've got some juicy ones up there. Unlearning around sex.
I feel like I learned so much about you. I feel like we learned so much about each other in that singular episode.
Yeah,
and it was like
weird. An area
so eye-opening. Yeah. So
because
if you
we
want to hear that,
on sex, so I thought and then we like pretty good.
We had all this stuff we uncovered, but that other things, I actually have a podcast that I made with Evie, my 10-year-old, that I'll be releasing on there in the next few weeks. Anyways, so you can go check it out. Inner Archaeology on Patreon and stuff like that. If you want to hear more of us.
Inner Archaeology. There's meditations that Emily made, which is like in response to people who took Master Your Mindset are always requesting more meditations from you. So those are pretty amazing. Those are up there too.
Yeah. Yay!
It is so fun.
We're having fun.
I love it.
Moonwalking out of the podcast.
And we're about to have a YouTube channel because we're recording these with video now. So
I know. It's like a next level.
Coming soon. Whenever we can find the time to upload them.
I know. First wedding, then the YouTube.
All right.
Love you. I love you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.